The office building stood tall in the heart of Accra, its glass walls glittering under the morning sun. To many who passed by, it was just another corporate giant, a beacon of wealth and opportunity. But to Madame Nana, it was far more than that, was a monument of love, of sacrifice, and of legacy. Her late husband, Mr. Mensah, had poured his life into building this empire. Every brick, every tiled floor, every polished desk carried his fingerprints, and now that he was gone, all of it, his wealth, his name, his sweat, belonged to their only son, Kwame. But what kept Nana awake at night wasn't the fear of losing the company. No, her greatest fear was losing her son to the wrong woman. Since her husband's passing, Nana had noticed how women hovered around Kwame, young, attractive, smiling too much, laughing too easily at his jokes. She had seen it before, how her late brother had been stripped of his wealth by a cunning girl who pretended to love him but disappeared the moment the money ran dry. And so, in her heart, Nana vowed, "I will never allow my son to fall into the hands of a gold digger. Never." The thought first came to her one quiet evening, as she sat by her husband's old rocking chair. She stared at the framed photo of him smiling, his arm around her shoulder, and she whispered, "My dear Kwaku, if only you were here, you'd know how these young girls can be. Sweet on the surface, poison at the core. How will I know who truly loves our son?" Her fingers tightened around her glass of tea. That was when the strange, almost mischievous idea entered her mind. What if I step into their world, not as Madame Nana, the wealthy widow, but as someone they would never suspect? What if I entered the company as one of the cleaners? The more she thought about it, the more it made sense. If she wanted to know the truth about the women surrounding Kwame, she had to see them at their most natural state, not the polished smiles they gave her during formal visits, but the unguarded behavior they showed among their peers. And so, the plan was born. At dawn, before the sun even rose, Madame Nana stood before her mirror, transforming herself. Her flawless wigs were gone, replaced with a rough scarf knotted tightly around her head. Her manicured nails were trimmed down, her expensive perfumes washed away with soap that smelled of nothing. She wore an old faded dress, the kind her maids would use for scrubbing floors, and carried a plastic bucket filled with rags. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she almost didn't recognize the reflection staring back. No one looking at her now would think of her as the woman who once dined with ministers and CEOs. She whispered to herself with a mix of fear and excitement, "From today, I am no longer Madame Nana. I am just another cleaner." When she arrived at the company building, she felt her heart pound harder than it had in years. The receptionist barely looked at her. To them, she was invisible. The other cleaners didn't question her much either. They simply handed her a mop and pointed to the corners that needed scrubbing. For the first time in her life, Nana bent down on her knees and wiped floors in the very office her husband once ruled. The tiles were cold, the soap stung her fingers, but she pressed on. She kept her ears open, her eyes sharper than ever. If she wanted to uncover the truth about the women around her son, she needed to be patient. It didn't take long before she noticed them. There was Wendy, the young woman with kind eyes, soft-spoken and diligent. Wendy never raised her voice at the cleaners. When she passed by, she always said, "Good morning," even if no one replied. She carried herself with humility, even though she clearly had the education and skills to work in higher places. Then there was Anita, yes, but with a sharp tongue, the type of beauty that came with pride. Anita often strutted around the office, heels clicking against the tiles, as if she owned the place. She had a way of looking at people like they were beneath her, especially the cleaners. And finally, there was Linda, who wasn't as outspoken as Anita but carried the same air of arrogance. She laughed at the cleaners when they made mistakes, and often whispered gossip behind Wendy's back. Madame Nana took note of it all, saying nothing, simply scrubbing the floors while her mind worked. One afternoon, as Nana bent down, mopping near the staff kitchen, she deliberately accidentally spilled a cup of water. She watched closely as the three women reacted. Anita wrinkled her nose and snapped, "Ugh, can't you watch where you're going? That's why people like you don't belong in offices like this." Linda laughed and added, "Maybe she needs glasses. Or maybe she's just stupid." But Wendy quickly grabbed some tissue and bent down beside Nana. "Don't worry, Mama, it happens. Here, let me help you." The words nearly brought tears to Nana's eyes. She forced herself to keep silent, but in that moment, a seed of trust began to grow toward Wendy. As weeks passed, Nana overheard conversations that revealed even more. One morning, Anita was bragging to Linda near the photocopier. When returns from the States, I'll make sure he notices me. With his money and my looks, we'll be unstoppable. Linda giggled. Don't forget me when you become Mrs. Kwame Mensah. I'll need a rich friend too. They laughed, their voices echoing down the hallway. Nana's heart sank, but she remained calm. So that's their plan. They don't want love. They want wealth. But Wendy was different. She never joined in their gossip. She kept to her work, often staying late to finish reports. Once, Nana even saw Wendy secretly give money to another cleaner who couldn't afford transport home. Don't tell anyone, Wendy whispered to the girl, but take it. You need it more than I do. Nana saw it all, and each day her respect for Wendy grew. Then, at last, came the day Kwame returned. The office buzzed with excitement. Everyone straightened their clothes, polished their shoes, and practiced their best smiles. The air itself seemed charged with expectation. When Kwame walked in, tall and confident, wearing a neatly tailored suit, the whispers filled the corridors. There he is, the heir. Ah, he's even more handsome in person. That one, if you catch him, your life is set. Madame Nana kept her head bowed, gripping her mop tightly, but her eyes, hidden under her scarf, followed her son. She studied the women closely. Anita immediately adjusted her blouse, her lips curling into a rehearsed smile. Linda stood straighter, batting her eyelashes. Wendy, however, did nothing extraordinary. She simply greeted him politely and returned to her desk. That small difference did not escape Nana's notice. Days passed, and Kwame began to take interest in the office dynamics. Though polite to all, he seemed drawn to Wendy. He often asked her questions about projects, walked beside her during lunch, and once even offered her a ride home when it rained. Anita and Linda noticed, and jealousy burned in their eyes. Can you believe it? Anita hissed to Linda one afternoon. After all our effort, he's talking to that plain-looking Wendy. Linda sneered. We'll see how long that lasts. We'll find a way to put her in her place. Unaware of the storm brewing, Wendy simply carried on with her work. But Madame Nana saw everything: the blossoming affection between Kwame and Wendy, the growing bitterness in Anita and Linda, and the danger that lay ahead. In her heart, she prayed silently, Lord, open my son's eyes to see the truth, and protect the one who truly cares for him. The office carried its usual morning buzz, phones ringing, printers humming, footsteps echoing in the hallways. But beneath the ordinary rhythm, a quiet storm was brewing. For Madame Nana, now weeks into her disguise, the office no longer felt foreign. She had learned the rhythms of the cleaners, who liked to arrive early, who often came late, who secretly tucked away extra supplies. She had even learned the gossip patterns of the staff, the whispered stories by the water dispenser, the boastful talks in the cafeteria. Every day she scrubbed, dusted, and polished, her heart torn between two truths: the joy of watching her son grow into a capable young man, and the fear of the shadows cast by envy and greed around him. One morning, as Nana mopped near the main office lobby, Anita stormed past, her heels stabbing the tiled floor like spears. You there? Anita barked. Didn't I tell you last week not to leave streaks on this glass? Do you think I wear designer clothes just to be embarrassed by your sloppy work? Clean it properly. Nana looked up with calm eyes, nodding humbly. Yes, madam. Linda, standing beside Anita, chuckled cruelly. She probably can't even see the stains. Old age has finished her eyesight. They both laughed as they walked off. But just moments later, Wendy came down the corridor carrying a stack of files. She paused when she saw Nana kneeling on the floor. Good morning, Mama, Wendy said warmly. Nana smiled faintly. Good morning, my daughter. You look tired. Please take it easy. These floors are endless, Wendy added, with genuine concern. She set her files down and offered Nana her bottled water. Drink some, you'll feel better. Nana's throat tightened. She wanted to embrace the girl, to reveal who she really was, but she couldn't, not yet. Instead, she whispered, God bless you, my child. And as Wendy walked away, Nana's heart whispered again, this is the kind of woman my Kwame needs, not those two vipers. It was during lunch one afternoon that the real plotting began. Nana had finished cleaning the cafeteria tables when she overheard Anita and Linda whispering, Can you believe Kwame actually gave Wendy a lift last week? Anita sneered, as if she's on his level. Linda rolled her eyes. She's too plain for him. But you know, men, they sometimes get blinded by fake humility. Anita leaned closer. If we don't stop her now, She might actually get him. And if she becomes his wife? Imagine how she treats us. She'll make us look like fools. Linda smirked. Then let's make her the fool before that happens. They burst into hushed laughter, their plan taking shape. From the corner, Nana gripped her cleaning rag tighter. So it begins, she thought. Meanwhile, Kwame was unknowingly fueling their jealousy. One evening, as most employees had left, Wendy stayed behind to finish a report. Kwame, passing by, noticed her desk light still on. You're still here? He asked, leaning casually on the doorframe. Wendy looked up, startled. Oh yes, just finishing this data analysis. It's due tomorrow morning. Kwame walked in, scanning the neatly arranged files. You work too hard. Most people would have left this for tomorrow. Wendy smiled softly. If I don't give my best, then why am I here? That simple answer struck Kwame deeply. He admired her sincerity. Let me give you a ride home, he offered again. It's too late to be heading out alone. Wendy hesitated. I don't want to inconvenience you. You wouldn't be, Kwame assured. Besides, I insist. From the shadows of the corridor, Anita and Linda watched, their teeth grinding. In envy, the next few days became unbearable for Wendy. Whenever she entered the office, Anita would roll her eyes dramatically. Linda would make snide remarks loud enough for her to hear. Some people think just because the boss talks to them, they've made it, Anita sneered one morning. Linda added, yes, but remember, pride goes before a fall. Wendy ignored them, but their words pierced her heart. Still, she carried herself with dignity, refusing to stoop to their level. But Madame Nana saw it all. From her quiet corner with mop and broom, she observed the hostility intensify, her blood boiling under her disguise. My son is walking into a battlefield, she thought, and he doesn't even know it. It wasn't long before Anita decided to take bolder steps. One afternoon, she deliberately accidentally spilled coffee on Wendy's documents. Oh no, I'm so clumsy, Anita said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Looks like you'll have to redo everything. Linda laughed. Maybe next time, don't keep your files so close to the edge of the table. Wendy sighed deeply but said nothing. She quietly gathered her ruined papers and went back to work. Kwame, however, had witnessed the scene from a distance. He walked up, glaring at Anita. That was unnecessary, he said firmly. Anita faked innocence. Oh, Kwame, it was just an accident. Be more careful next time, he cut her off, his tone sharp. Anita's face burned with humiliation. From her mop bucket, Nana smiled quietly. Her son was learning to see through masks. That night, Anita couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, replaying Kwame's rebuke over and over. No man has ever spoken to me like that, she muttered angrily. All because of that low-class Wendy. She sat up, determination flashing in her eyes. If kindness won't win him, then I'll use what I know best. Power, charm, and manipulation. And with Linda's help, she began plotting something far more dangerous, a scheme that would not only destroy Wendy's reputation, but possibly cost her freedom. Meanwhile, Nana knelt in prayer that same night, tears rolling down her cheeks. Oh God, she whispered, you see the hearts of men and women, you see the envy rising in Anita and Linda. Protect Wendy, for she knows nothing of the evil being prepared against her, and guide my son, that he may not be deceived. She clutched her scarf tighter, her disguise now heavier than ever, with the burden of knowing what was coming pressed on her chest. But she could not reveal herself, not yet. The next morning, when Nana arrived at the office, she sensed a strange energy. Anita and Linda were huddled together, their whispers more intense than ever. Wendy, though, trying to stay focused, looked drained. Her eyes were tired, her shoulders weighed down. Kwame, oblivious to the undercurrents, moved with his usual calm. But Nana knew something was about to break. She braced herself, tightening her grip on her mop, whispering under her breath, the storm is coming. And indeed, it was the bribe, the betrayal, and the trap that would shake the entire company to its core. The tension in the office had become unbearable. For weeks, Anita and Linda's smiles had grown sharper, their whispers darker. Wendy, though keeping her dignity, felt the invisible knives cutting at her daily, but Madame Nene, still hidden beneath her scarf and faded dress, watched everything with piercing eyes. She knew the enemy was preparing its final strike. It happened one evening when most of the staff had already left. Wendy was packing up her desk when Anita and Linda walked in, their heels clicking in unison. They shut the door behind them, their faces painted with forced smiles. Wendy, Anita began, her voice dripping with false sweetness. We've been watching how close you've gotten to Kwame. Wendy frowned slightly. And what about it? Linda stepped forward, waving a shiny envelope. We don't want to see you get hurt. Kwame is not for you, so we're offering you a chance to walk away with something to show for it. Wendy's eyes fell on the envelope. She didn't need to open it to know what it was. Mooney. A bribe. Anita leaned closer, her perfume thick in the air. Take it, Wendy. Travel, enjoy yourself. But leave Kwame alone. He belongs to someone of our class, not yours. For a long moment, silence filled the office. Wendy's hands trembled slightly, but her voice was firm. I will never sell my dignity for money. If Kwame speaks to me, it's because he chooses to, and I will never betray myself just to please you. She pushed the envelope back, toward them. Keep your money. Anita's smile cracked. Linda's eyes narrowed. You'll regret this, Anita hissed. Then they stormed out, leaving Wendy shaken but resolute. From the shadows outside the office, Nana had heard everything. Her chest swelled with pride. That girl is pure. They cannot buy her soul. But she also shivered because she knew Anita and Linda would not stop there. The following week, whispers began spreading through the company. Someone had leaked an audio recording. It was Wendy's voice, or at least it sounded like her saying shocking words. Yes, I don't care about Kwame. I only want his money. Once I have it, I'll leave him flat. The recording spread like wildfire. Phones buzzed, gossip filled the corridors, and soon everyone was looking at Wendy with suspicion and disgust. Linda smirked as she passed by Wendy's desk. Wow, I didn't think you'd be bold enough to say it out loud. Anita added, loud enough for everyone to hear. Some people hide well, but the truth always comes out. Wendy's face burned. That's not me. I never said those words, she cried, but no one believed her. Even some of the cleaners she once helped now whispered behind her back. Nana, her heart breaking, clenched her fists. She wanted to scream, to reveal the truth, but she bit her tongue. The time wasn't right, not yet. It reached its peak one afternoon during a company meeting. Kwame stood at the front, preparing to address the staff, when suddenly Anita raised her hand. Kwame, she said, with a false air of concern. Before you continue, I think you should hear something. For your own protection. She pulled out her phone, pressed play, and the fake audio filled the room. Kwame froze. His eyes widened in disbelief as the voice, Wendy's voice, spoke of gold-digging schemes. Gasps echoed through the hall. All eyes turned to Wendy. Kwame's heart sank. He looked at her, pain in his gaze. Wendy, is this true? Tears streamed down Wendy's face. No, it's not me, Kwame. Please, you know me. You know I'd never say such a thing. But doubt clouded his eyes. The seed of suspicion had been planted, as if things couldn't get worse. 2 policemen entered the room moments later. Miss Wendy Oyusu, one of them asked. Yes, she whispered. You're under arrest for fraud and attempted extortion against Mr. Kwame Mensah. The room erupted in shock. Anita and Linda smirked victoriously. No, this is a mistake, Wendy cried as the officers grabbed her arms. Kwame stepped forward, torn between anger and confusion. Wait, there must be some misunderstanding, but Wendy was already being led away, her tears falling like rain. From the corner, Nana's heart shattered. She could no longer stay silent. That evening, Nana entered Kwame's office not as the cleaner, but as herself. She removed her scarf, wiped off the powder, dulling her skin, and stood tall in her elegant dress. Kwame looked up, startled. Mother? Yes, Kwame, it was me. All this time, I was here, disguised as a cleaner. Kwame's jaw dropped. But why? Nana's eyes burned with both sorrow and fire. Because I wanted to see with my own eyes the truth about the women around you. I wanted to know who loved you for you, and who wanted only your wealth. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. And I saw everything. Wendy was kind when others mocked me. She defended the weak when others trampled them. And when they tried to bribe her to leave you, she refused. Kwame's breath caught. What bribe? Yes, Nana said firmly. Anita and Linda offered her money to walk away from you. She rejected it. But those 2 created that fake audio and framed her. I was there. I heard it all. Kwame's fists clenched in rage. The very next day, Kwame summoned Anita and Linda to the boardroom. Play the audio again, he demanded. They smirked. Pressing play. But this time Kwame's IT team who had analyzed the file interrupted. This recording is fake. It was digitally altered. Kwame's eyes blazed. Not only that, my mother herself overheard your scheme to bribe Wendy. You thought you were clever. But the truth has caught you. Anita's face drained of color. Linda stammered. Kwame, it's not what it looks like enough. Kwame thundered. You've slandered an innocent woman, humiliated her, and nearly destroyed her life. You will never step foot in this company again. Security escorted them out as staff whispered in shock. The mighty had fallen, their masks ripped away. Later that day, Wendy was released from police custody after the charges were dropped. She walked out, weary and broken, only to find Kwame waiting outside. Wendy, he whispered, his voice heavy with remorse. I'm sorry. I should have trusted you. Tears welled in her eyes. Kwame, he took her hands gently. You showed me what true character looks like. You cared when no one was watching. You stood tall when they tried to break you. My mother was right, you're the woman I've been blind to all along. From a distance, Nana watched, her heart swelling with peace. The storm had passed. Truth had triumphed. Weeks later, the company settled back into calm. Anita and Linda were forgotten like dust swept from the floor. Wendy, though scarred by the ordeal, walked taller than ever. Kwame stood proudly beside her, his eyes clearer now, his heart stronger, and Madame Nana, she returned to her late husband's rocking chair, smiling at his framed photo. My dear Kwaku, she whispered, our son has found his true partner not in wealth, but in love. The house was silent, but in her spirit, she knew her husband was smiling back, because in the end, gold diggers may rise, lies may spread, but truth always stands.